People often say that siblings introduce the first taste of difference, but I've never wanted it to be that way. Perhaps it's because I grew up as an only child. I hope my husband and his siblings will always get along well. My name is Malia, and at 35 years old, I'm a housewife juggling household chores, childcare, and a part-time job. It's been nearly a decade since I married Albert, whom I met at work. We've been blessed with 2 children during this time. Albert has always been kind, a loving husband, and a devoted father since our dating days. Our family gets along harmoniously, and every day is typically peaceful and happy. Then, one day, a storm swept into our lives. The cause of this storm was my brother-in-law's fiancée. We met her for the first time last Christmas, and she was quite an unusual presence. It didn't bother me that she didn't lift a finger at my in-laws' house. After all, she wasn't yet married into the family, and my in-laws aren't the type to expect help just because someone is a daughter-in-law. Personally, I helped my mother-in-law, and naturally, Albert pitched in. My father-in-law and brother-in-law entertained the children. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law's fiancée spent the entire time glued to her phone. Even during Christmas greetings and meals, she never put it down. There was hardly any conversation beyond initial pleasantries. Frankly, I wondered why she had even come. I assumed she had been dragged along reluctantly by my brother-in-law and was in a bad mood. I really wanted to connect with her, so I insisted he bring her, but she seemed disinterested. Half a year after that Christmas, Dusty is getting married, my husband mentioned as he changed clothes after returning from work. Dusty is my brother-in-law. He's finally decided to tie the knot. Is it with that girl? I asked. Yeah, seems like it, he replied. He's already 30 years old and marriage is a milestone. But I'm worried about her character. Marriage changes a lot compared to just dating. I wonder if they'll have a peaceful married life. One day, my husband returned home looking exhausted. Welcome back. Work seemed tough today, I asked. No, it wasn't work, he sighed. I ran into Dusty's girlfriend, Ditette, at the office. What was she doing there? I inquired. She came to see me, he explained. She said she had something important to discuss. What did she want to talk about? I asked, curious. Well, about that, he hesitated. I was surprised she came to my office, but even more surprised by what she asked for. What did she ask for? She wanted help with wedding expenses, he revealed, or, if that's not possible, some pocket money. What? I don't understand, I replied, bewildered by the request. I couldn't grasp the situation. The cost of a wedding should be reasonable if managed within one's means. Dusty has a stable job and earns well. What baffled me more was the request for pocket money. Why would my husband give money to Dusty's girlfriend? To my surprise, my husband hesitated before continuing, reluctantly sharing. Well, she also asked if we could go out for a meal or something, just the 2 of us. What? Why? I exclaimed, taken aback. She said she wants to build a good relationship with me because I'll be her brother-in-law, he explained. But if that's her intention, she should come over to our house. I declined the idea of meeting her alone. I'm frustrated. Why does she need to meet you alone to build rapport? She and Dusty should simply visit us. I vented, recalling how she had been glued to her phone the entire Christmas gathering. The request for financial help and a private meeting didn't sit well with me. Unable to stay silent, I decided to confront Dusty. I asked him to come over, feeling compelled to discuss something important. I laid out everything about Ditette's behavior, hoping he'd understand. Dee would never ask for such things, Dusty insisted, refusing to believe it. Why would she ask my brother for money and suggest meeting alone? It doesn't make sense. But it's true, I insisted. I believe her. I trust Dee, Dusty asserted firmly, exchanging a troubled glance with my husband. Trusting your partner is crucial in marriage. You shouldn't marry someone you can't trust. It's normal to prioritize and believe in your fiancé over your own brother. I only heard about this from my husband, but I didn't doubt him for a moment. Trust forms the foundation of a marriage. Ultimately, Dusty wasn't to blame. He left our house somewhat upset after our discussion. My husband and I decided that unless something more serious occurred, we wouldn't intervene further. All we wanted was Dusty's happiness. However, Danette's behavior didn't cease. Having resigned from her job in anticipation of marriage, she seemed to be bored. Almost every day, she started visiting my husband during his lunch break at his office. She also sent him messages on his phone. He instructed the receptionist not to allow her in and ignored her messages. He reported each incident to Dusty, but Dusty refused to believe it. He was so infatuated with Danette that he dismissed my husband's concerns. Let's go out for a meal. Just the two of us. Could you give your dear sister-in-law some pocket money? I feel so lonely without Albert by my side. Her messages read. Even after my husband sent screenshots of these inappropriate messages to Dusty, he still refused to accept the truth. Then, I received a call from Dusty. What kind of harassment is this? Sending me these fake messages. Do you really want to ruin my happiness? He shouted angrily. My husband was deeply hurt by his brother's accusations. They had always been close, and seeing his brother turn against him was devastating. Unable to bear seeing my husband like this, I messaged Danette, asking her to stop harassing him. Her reply shocked me. What does it have to do with you? I couldn't believe she had addressed me so disrespectfully. I feared Dusty's impending marriage might end unhappily, but no matter what we said, Dusty refused to listen to my husband. Their once strong brotherly bond was crumbling, and my husband's loneliness was heartbreaking to witness. I had been wanting to sit down with Danette and have a discussion, the four of us, Dusty, my husband, and myself, but time passed without that opportunity arising. One day, while my husband was away on a business trip, Dusty unexpectedly called our home phone. Surprised by the unusual call, I picked up and heard his loud voice. Malia, are you still at home? What are you doing? He asked urgently. I was just hanging up laundry, but what's going on? I replied, caught off guard. Is Danette with you? She's saying if she's not attending the wedding, you need to pay the cancellation fee. Dusty's words stunned me into silence. I struggled to comprehend what I had just heard. Wedding, absence, cancellation fee. Wait, what are you talking about? There's a wedding today. I nearly shouted, trying to grasp the situation. Dusty sounded surprised by my panicked response. Yes, I sent you an invitation. You marked will attend on the reply card. We never received it. That's impossible, I exclaimed, feeling a surge of confusion and frustration. After some back and forth about the missing invitation, Dusty seemed pressed for time. Forget about today. If Albert is on a business trip, it can't be helped. Let's talk properly later, he said, and then hung up. I stood there in disbelief. A wedding? Dusty's wedding, today. I frantically called my husband, hoping he would answer despite being on his business trip. Honey, I think something terrible has happened. I can't understand. I started, my voice trembling with anxiety. After taking a deep breath, I continued. A few days later, I recounted the phone call with Dusty to my husband after he returned from his business trip. We decided to visit Dusty's new apartment. As we stood outside the rental, we rang the intercom repeatedly with no response. Finally, to our surprise, Danette, now my sister-in-law, answered. We don't want to talk to rude people who cancel a wedding at the last minute and then refuse to pay the cancellation fee. Leave, she demanded sharply. Unwilling to leave without seeing Dusty, we persisted, requesting Danette to let him come out. However, she refused. Unable to hold back any longer, my husband called Dusty, who appeared to be occupied in the bathroom but hurried out upon our insistence. Finally, Dusty emerged, and we were able to approach the door of his new home. Just as the door opened, Danette reappeared. Danette, I'm sorry we couldn't attend the wedding, but we really need to talk, I started. There's nothing to talk about. You're just going to make excuses, right? Don't think an apology will suffice after you embarrass us at our wedding, Danette retorted coldly. We've brought the wedding gift we couldn't deliver. Please come in, my husband interjected, attempting to ease the tension. To our surprise, Danette's attitude quickly shifted upon seeing the gift. My husband and I exchanged relieved smiles. Dusty, who had been unable to approach due to Danette blocking the door, finally joined us. Dusty, we're sorry we couldn't be at your wedding, but about the invitation, I began, wanting to clarify. Why did you lie about not receiving it? If you couldn't make it because of work, you could have just told me, Dusty questioned, clearly confused. We really never received the invitation. That's impossible, my husband insisted. The debate about the missing invitation resumed until my husband remembered the reply postcard. Here it is. The address on it isn't from around here. It's from a local post office, likely near our area. Our house is about a 20-minute drive from Dusty's apartment, and if it were from our neighborhood, it would have a different post office address. My husband explained, showing the postcard. Did you have the local post office handle this? Dusty asked, puzzled. Why would it complicate things like that? My husband replied quickly. Then who handled the invitations? I inquired, looking at Dusty. Deet did, Dusty replied reluctantly, confirming my suspicion. I had suspected that Danette had taken charge of most of the wedding preparations while Dusty focused on work. She had handled the invitations, and now it seemed like a deception. Something had bothered me since I first saw the postcard. The names written on it, mine and my husband's, were clearly not in our handwriting. My husband had a talent for calligraphy and wrote beautifully, whereas I struggled with my own handwriting, which was far from elegant. Normally, I relied on my husband to fill out forms and documents for our children's school due to my poor penmanship. The names on the postcard were written in a cute, distinct style that was certainly not ours. I can't write in such a cute style. This handwriting. It's Danette's, I realized aloud, feeling a sense of disbelief that we hadn't noticed sooner. It was only now that Dusty also recognized the handwriting. Danette, what is the meaning of this? I don't know, Danette stammered, feigning innocence. It's clearly your handwriting. Realizing the truth, Dusty confronted Danette angrily. She appeared panicked and evasive. My husband stepped in to calm his brother, asking Danette quietly, "Why did you do this, Danette?" We admit it was our fault for not confirming the wedding date, but we believed the invitation would come, so we didn't bother to ask. I'm saddened that I missed my brother's big day, my husband explained, trying to understand. Why did you do it, Danette? Dusty demanded, his frustration evident. Initially scared, Danette hesitated before admitting, "Because you were in the way, Albert, attending the wedding, showing the messages I sent. I thought it would be troublesome." "In the way?" Dusty repeated incredulously. "So you tried to set us up to protect yourself?" Our parents and relatives scolded us, questioning why we prioritized work over my brother's wedding. They even criticized my wife as inconsiderate. Danette fell silent under the weight of her own admission. She had manipulated the situation to tarnish our reputation among relatives, hoping we might avoid family gatherings if they thought poorly of us. "Never trust someone who calls themselves cute," Dusty remarked bitterly. "That's what I should have realized." "And now what?" Danette retorted defensively. "It's Dusty's fault for not earning enough." Her blunt words stunned us all. Until then, we had seen Danette as easygoing, but now we saw her true colors. My husband, Dusty, and I were left shocked and dismayed by her selfish actions. "I want to be a housewife, relaxing at home, lunching at my favorite places. Dusty's salary won't allow that," I told Albert. "An allowance is one thing, but why does she insist on meeting you alone? What's wrong with wanting to dine with a handsome man?" Her defiant attitude left me speechless. Danette, perhaps overwhelmed, started tearing up. I expected Dusty to explode in anger, but instead, he sighed deeply. He seemed to be holding himself back, maintaining his composure. Slowly, he extended his hand to Danette, and she placed hers in his. "Dusty, will you forgive me?" she pleaded. He withdrew his hand abruptly. "What are you misunderstanding, Danette? Just give it to me." "What? What do you mean? Your mobile phone." "Show it to me now," Danette protested. Dusty snatched the phone from her before she could react. After a moment of operating it, his face turned pale. "Wow," he muttered, avoiding Danette's reaching hand as he held the phone high above her. "You've been cheating, haven't you?" At his words, my husband stepped forward and took the phone from Dusty easily. Given their similar height, his expression grew stern as he examined the screen. "I see quite a few. What do you mean by this?" my husband asked, showing me the phone screen. "This is a violation of privacy," Danette shouted in anger, attempting to retrieve the phone. Dusty held her back. "Wow, how many guys are there?" he muttered, his eyes scanning the explicit messages on the screen. The chat application revealed conversations with multiple men, filled with suggestive content. "Had fun today, let's do it again," read one message. "I'm free tomorrow since my boyfriend is working," said another. "I need more stamina. Sneaking around is so exciting. Can't get enough with my boyfriend. How about a hotel tomorrow?" These messages were just the tip of the iceberg. "You're the worst, truly the worst," Danette yelled at us, but I couldn't help but think she was the lowest of the low. Finally, under our intense glares, Danette fell silent. "I never thought I'd be considering divorce so soon after getting married." Dusty sighed heavily. "Divorce?" Danette panicked at his words. I wanted to ask her if she hadn't thought divorce was a possibility all along. "Of course, I can't stay married to someone who cheats," Dusty continued. "But wait, it was just for fun. You can see from the messages it was just play." Danette tried to defend herself. You think it's okay to be involved with other men if it's just play. My husband interjected. No, I don't. I won't do it anymore. I won't meet them again. Danette's slip of honesty made Dusty sigh once more. I know a lawyer. I'll introduce you, my husband offered gently, placing a comforting hand on Dusty's shoulder. Dusty looked at him with a tearful expression. Danette screamed as if it were the end of the world. For Dusty, it was a sad ending. I absolutely don't want a divorce, he muttered. For Danette, it must have seemed like the end of the world. She caused her own storm and ruined everything, I thought to myself, watching her distressed reaction. Later, Dusty came to our house, smiling and playing with our delighted sons. I've successfully divorced, he announced, his face looking refreshed. Det foolishly left messages and even photos on her phone, providing perfect evidence. The divorce ended with Dusty receiving compensation, my husband explained. Of course, Danette couldn't pay, so her parents deeply apologized and settled on her behalf, my husband continued. What happened to Danette? Dusty answered quietly. She's working from morning till night to repay her parents. They're keeping a strict eye on her so she won't escape. Dusty's face turned complex as he heard about his almost in-laws. It seems Danette will lead a very constrained life from now on. She wanted an easy life as a housewife, but that seems unlikely now. Don't underestimate housewives, my husband remarked. I can't imagine someone with such misconceptions managing to work properly. She's probably whining while working, Dusty added, reflecting on Danette's new reality. Well, it was tough, but it's good that you found out early. Think of it as a valuable life experience, my husband reassured Dusty. Yeah, I'll take my time, but eventually I'll start looking for someone else, my true soulmate, Dusty said with a hint of optimism. Dusty, you'll be fine. Keep it up, my husband encouraged him. I'm sorry for the trouble, and thank you, Dusty said gratefully. Don't mention it. Protecting my little brother is natural, my husband replied warmly. As I watched them share a laugh, I couldn't help but feel relieved. I was worried when things got tense, but brothers being close is best after all, I thought to myself. Mama, what's going on? My sons asked as they approached, looking puzzled. I smiled and placed my hands on both of their heads. You two always stay close like your dad and uncle, okay? Okay, Mama, they giggled in unison. Watching them play together, I couldn't help but smile warmly, cherishing the bond they shared.